my God. Not this again. Ah, Jesus. Guys, not all gamers are misogynists. Not all gamers are 600-pound losers who don't do anything but game. Oh my goodness. Alright guys, so as many of y'all might know, The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. I think it might be one of the best RPGs ever created. And the show is okay. It's not as good as the game itself is, but I think Season 1 was really good. Season 2 I tried watching, I couldn't really get through it. I had a lot of issues with the casting, and I feel like they were kind of diverting from the plot that the game built up very well. So, by the way, I don't have too much knowledge on the original books. I never read the original books. All my lore knowledge is based on the game itself. I think the game did a really good job, but don't be mad at me. I didn't read the books. So let's get right into this video. This guy named KiraTV made a video called Netflix Killed The Witcher. And this video has been coming up in my recommended a lot. A lot of the bigger YouTubers did a reaction video to it. I know Asmongold, for example, reacted to this, but I have not seen the video itself. Just wanted to watch it for the first time on camera and kind of react to it. Let's get right into it.
On the morning of October 30th, 2022, fans of the hit TV series The Witcher were hit with devastating news. Henry Cavill revealed that he will no longer play Geralt
I did
of
see
Rivia,
this, yeah.
the show's main protagonist, after
I
the
follow him on
conclusion of
Instagram.
Season 3. A heartbreaking turn of events, one that has bred incredible bitterness towards the show, and of course the writers.
Usually on Instagram, if you guys don't know, Henry Cavill's a really big gamer. So I like to follow him on Instagram to see what kind of projects he's going to be working on in the future, to see if he has another Superman movie coming out or if there's going to be some exciting Witcher news. I did see this, and it is a tragedy. I think he was probably the best Geralt that we could have gotten, that we could have asked for. Not only because he is a tremendous actor, but also because he has actually played the game, I think multiple times through or something. And he really portrayed Geralt very well. He really knew how to do all the right grunts and all the like the low, almost monotone tone that he had when he spoke any kind of dialogue in the show. And I think knowing how good he was, no one who replaces him is going to be considered good. Even if they are good, they're not going to be as good as Henry Cavill was, just because that's who we know Geralt as in a live action format, right? So this is a tragedy for sure.
This is a fucking tragedy and genuinely unexpected. Losing Cavill has obviously brought into question whether fans of the show would even continue to watch after the replacement, Liam Hemsworth, takes over the role. In all honesty, I don't know if I'll still be able to watch the show knowing Henry won't be a part of it anymore.
I don't know how good an actor Liam Hemsworth is, but even if he's great, like I said, he's not going to be able to replace Henry Cavill. I honestly almost feel bad for him. Although, from his perspective, he probably shouldn't have taken up the role to begin with, right? Considering how much the fans love Henry Cavill. But I guess how would he know? I don't know. I have mixed feelings on this. All I know is he's not going to be as good as Henry Cavill.
But why exactly did this happen? What could make a production kick out the lead? Not just a lead, but a massive actor who fans praised as being the perfect fit for the role. And of course, is this the end of The Witcher?
Yeah, probably.
I've been a fan of the fantasy genre since I was a boy and played the Witcher games. I played The Witcher 3 through twice, and I just wanted to make sure that Geralt was represented as accurately as possible.
Henry William Cavill has a career that spans over 2 decades, rising to prominence first in the highly acclaimed film adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo in 2002, and speeding through the industry to roles like the Man of Steel himself. At this stage, he's an incredibly
I wonder how old he is. He's been in the industry for a while then.
in-demand actor, but that doesn't tell the whole story as to why fans of The Witcher love him so much. Henry is a nerd at heart, not one posing for brownie points, but
That gets me so excited. This guy freaking builds PCs. That's how you know this is the right guy for The Witcher. Because the game is what blew up the IP, right? It wasn't the books. The books weren't super popular. No matter what you guys yell at me about in the comments, the books were not as big a deal until the game came out. And after especially Witcher 3 came out, that's when it really blew up. And knowing that Henry Cavill is as big an enthusiast as he is for gaming, he's like the perfect person to portray Geralt. And they're really going to miss out big time by replacing him with a different actor. Netflix should have done whatever they could to keep him. They should have let him freaking write the season if he wanted to, just to keep him.
Truly into the culture.
Well, the first time I got the call, I actually missed it. I was playing World of Warcraft at the time, and I had my priorities straight.
I love that he's a nerd.
Loves World of Warcraft, paints miniatures like Warhammer, builds his own gaming PCs, and grew up doing what most of the fans of comic book movies or video game adaptations have been doing. Despite looking like the epitome of a Giga Chad, Henry Cavill was seen as one of the audience when it came to loving some of the characters and franchises he would later go on to star in, which of course makes him a perfect fit for some of these roles, as he's also a fan, so he's more likely to do it justice.
Yeah, so do you correct people?
I don't necessarily... I am
He should correct
effusive
people.
about getting the being loyal to the source material. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Despite this, Henry's initial casting as the White Wolf was met with much criticism. After all, Henry looks nothing like Geralt. Geralt is a rugged man, Henry is handsome. Many fans question the casting decision based solely on this fact. Mads Mikkelsen, definitely. Nikolai Coster-Waldau, maybe. But Henry Cavill, no thanks.
See, these are both good options, but the problem is they're not gamers. They don't know what Geralt is like. They probably haven't played through The Witcher 3 twice like Henry has, right? So more so than looks, it's important to know who you're playing, who you're portraying on screen. And the best way to know who you're portraying on screen is to have lived in that Witcher world for 2 full play sessions. And knowing that Henry had done that, that was what was his, like, I don't know what the word for it is, but that's what made him such a good actor for that role.
Pass. The sentiment on social media was that of skepticism for his ability to take on the role of Geralt, but the woman in charge of the project had a different perspective entirely, and it wasn't based on looks, but on passion. He was my first meeting. I didn't have writers or scripts yet, just a green light and a lot of passion. That was 4 months ago, and I've never forgotten the passion he brought. He is Geralt. He always has been.
Absolutely.
I'm so thrilled to welcome Henry Cavill to the #Witcher family. But why exactly was she so adamant that Henry was the right man for the job? Well, it comes down to persistence. His love for the Witcher video game series led him to do everything in his power to try and get this job. He constantly called his agents and forced them to call the showrunners over and over and over again. Eventually, it worked. He got the meeting before the script had been written, and before casting was even a thought. The seed was planted, and he made a lasting impression. He did that because he knew this role was perfect for him, that he would do it justice as a true fan of the material it was based upon. This turned out to probably be the best decision of the entire production. While fans started out skeptical.
To be completely honest, I'm not sure I would have watched this TV show unless Henry Cavill was the one who was in like the interview for the marketing material and stuff, because he showed so much passion for the games that made me appreciate what he was going to bring to the character. And I feel like that's one of the main reasons I watched this show. And I'm not like too big on TV shows as a whole. Like I'd rather spend my time playing video games or like watching a movie or something. I'll watch a TV show every now and then if it's really good, but there has to be something that really brings me to it, right? So for The Witcher, it was Henry Cavill. That's what made me want to watch it in the first place. And without him, I don't know if people will come back.
About his ability to deliver a believable Geralt, his presentation was perfect. He embodied the character on screen, but most importantly, he respected the story too much to compromise, giving fans the assurance that this show would be different than those of the past. A rational concern for gaming and book fans when seeing a media adaptation. It's easier to name the ones that have been done well than it is to name the failures, as there are few and far between. Video games especially carry with them a terrible, terrible track record of television.
Oh my god, those Mortal Kombat movies, oh, so bad.
Shows or movies butchering the initial source material, creating a slap in the face to the original fans, marketing themselves to a fan base that simply doesn't exist.
But The Last of Us show was really good. It didn't follow the game to a T, but what it did change, I felt was like fine. It wasn't like a change that was too negative, in my opinion. And the casting was really good. I was kind of skeptical of what's that dude's name? The main guy in The Last of Us. I was kind of skeptical of him, but he did a great job. I think because in interviews and stuff, he talked about how he hadn't played the game and how his grandchildren, or not his grandchildren, his nephews or whatever were super excited that he got cast for the role, but he didn't know too much about it, which kind of worried me because coming from someone like Henry Cavill who knows a lot about the game and then going to The Last of Us for an actor who doesn't know a lot about the game, that was a bit worrying, but he did a great job. And I know they greenlit season 2 as well. We'll see how good that is because I wasn't a fan of the story in Last of Us Part 2, but we'll see.
Writers and producers without respect for the original work, thinking they know better and trying to use the media as a vehicle to tell their own stories instead of the ones fans come to expect and already love. The Witcher Season 1 was of course far from perfect, but one thing fans could agree upon is that Henry Cavill was doing the role just.
Dude, The Witcher Season 1 I thought it was really good, but it was so confusing. I had no idea what was going on until like freaking episode 7 or something. Like right before the finale, I realized like, oh, so like the timelines are skewed and whatnot. It was super difficult to understand what was going on, but it was okay because I had played the game, so I kind of understood some of the lore. But watching it with my girlfriend, she tried watching the show and she was so lost. She was like, I can't do this. I have no clue what's going on. And I get it. She hadn't played the game, so it made complete sense that she didn't really understand why certain things were shown before other things and whatnot. So I do think that it was very difficult to follow if you hadn't really gone into it knowing how the lore works out.
Justice, even if the story deviated a tolerable amount, he was going to carry the show the whole time, no matter what. Unfortunately, things behind the scenes were starting to go wrong. There were decisions being made that would put everything at risk, decisions that might even kill the entire show. During the filming of Season 2, it became clear that lines were being drawn in the sand. Working conditions were becoming difficult, with constant conflict. Season 2 released, and fans noticed this on screen. People who had played the video games, but more importantly, people who had read Sapkowski's books.
I could not finish Season 2. I do not think it's a good season.
Becoming more and more disillusioned with the direction. The shift of narrative was clear. Things were not really making sense. The source material was being disrespected or outright ignored. The numbers, however, the people viewing were still good, which allowed for a Season 3 greenlight from Netflix and the ability to perhaps steer the ship to safer waters if, of course, fan input was heard. Unfortunately, during production of Season 3, Henry Cavill took to social media and announced his departure from the project.
That's such a cool way to say it. I'll be laying down my medallion and my swords for Season 4. I like that. That's like actually referring to the source material.
Outside, this seemed incredibly out of the blue. After all, why would a man who fought tooth and nail to get himself cast in this role give it up when the show was going to continue?
Yeah, I saw on Twitter a lot of people were talking about how Season 3 is the final season. And at this time, I didn't know that there was going to be a Season 4. I just believed people. But people were saying that because Henry Cavill's last season is Season 3. So for a lot of people, it is the final season for The Witcher. Which, I mean, makes sense. I wouldn't want to see anything without him in it.
How could he do that to himself, to the show, and to the fans who saw him as Geralt and entirely irreplaceable? Immediately, the internet rumour mills came to life, and theories were being tossed around as to why exactly this happened. One common speculation at the time was that due to DC's push to compete with Marvel, Henry's much more important and lucrative role as Superman was going to limit the time available to act on the Witcher series. That he had simply made the choice to give up the role of his dreams on a show he seemed so passionate about in order to continue playing the Man of Steel. But did Superman really kill the Witcher?
I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman. And the image you see on this post and what you saw in Black Adam are just a very small taste of things to come.
This theory
He's
was
a great
shot down
Superman,
early, in
by the
part
way.
due to Henry's own words. He stated that everyone involved on both sides knew of his desire to maintain both, and that he would play The Witcher for at least 7 seasons, quote, as long as we can keep telling great stories which honour Sapkowski's work. Which could of course just have been words, a broken promise, but just a few weeks later, Henry announced that after meeting the new DC
Is he wearing a TikTok t-shirt?
director James Gunn, his role as Superman was now over, leaving him seemingly infinite time. Henry was now out of his 2 main and most beloved roles within a matter of weeks, and the fans with more questions about what it was that actually...
The new casting for Superman, by the way, that guy, I don't know who he is, but he looks basically like a Henry Cavill from 10 years ago or something. He's just Henry Cavill again.
killed The Witcher. Pretty soon, however, they discovered that the reason Season 2 was noticeably worse than Season 1 was exactly the reason Henry was no longer playing Geralt. In a social media post, one of The Witcher show writers took to Instagram to end speculation. Bo DeMayo said, quote, "I've been on shows, namely Witcher, which some of the writers were not fans or actively disliked the books and games, even actively mocking the source material. It's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. Fandom as a litmus test checks egos and makes all the long nights worth it. You have..."
Oh my god, this is so disappointing, man. Like if you're making a show based on something else, based on a different IP or based on a different source material, you cannot disrespect the source material. The main people who are going to launch off your show or launch off whatever movie you're making or whatever, those people are going to be fans of the original source material. I mean, eventually it might turn into something where people who haven't played the original game or people who haven't read the original source material might enjoy the new show you're making or the new movie you're making. But if you start off disrespecting the source material, you're going to not be a successful TV show. I feel like this is just common sense. Right? Like, am I crazy here? Is this not common sense? If you're making a show based on something else, respect the something else. Oh my
have to
god.
respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy. A bold claim that showrunner Lauren responded to directly, ending her message with, quote, "Don't believe everything you read."
I've never mocked the books. The books are my entire livelihood. I have a great relationship with Mr. Sapkowski, and writers' rooms are sacred and safe, and more than anything, supportive spaces. Don't believe everything you read.
Fans again were given the breadcrumb trail to follow. Before
Okay.
Henry had even announced his departure, it was clear the show was veering towards its own path, away from respecting the books.
It's okay to slightly change stuff, but you can't make really big changes to what happened to the characters.
With this added testimony on social media,
All right, wait, let me read this. I totally hear you if you didn't like it. There are many people who did, though, literally millions and millions of them. Are they lesser fans or do they just like different things? Oh my god. That is such a stupid thing to say. So dumb. Or there's room for many different versions of these stories. I hope so, but I understand if you're disappointed. Wishing you the best. Oh my god. She should have never said anything like that, man. Because how, like, prove it. Prove millions and millions of people like it. She can't. She's getting more flack than positive reinforcement for this show. Then she should acknowledge that and say, okay, you know what, you guys, we messed up. We are going to fix it in the next season. We understand you don't like the way we've taken things. Instead of saying, oh, all of you don't like it? Well, there's more people who like it. Or there's millions and millions of people who do like it. That's so dumb. No one's gonna end up watching your show then.
It was starting to make a whole lot more sense. Henry's quote about staying for at least 7 seasons, remember, ended with, quote,
As long as we can keep telling great stories which honor his work. Okay.
as long as we can keep telling great stories which honor Sapkowski's
7
work.
seasons.
To Henry, they were
Jeez.
no longer respecting this work. At this point, people started to dissect old interviews from Henry and saw that he was even publicly discussing how hard he'd had to fight to get certain elements of Geralt from the books into the show. Quote, this season, I really wanted to make sure that we represented the book's Geralt more accurately, and that we saw him speak more. I pushed really, really hard for that. As well as later when he discussed some of his favorites.
That's a
that we
very
saw him
important
speak
quote, because I don't think a lot of people realize, or people who just watch the show realize, Geralt speaks plenty. He's not a silent protagonist. In The Witcher 3, he speaks a lot. Again, I don't know what happens in Sapkowski's books, but in the game, he speaks a lot. He responds to everything. You can have a ton of dialogue options, and he talks a lot. It's just monotone and very low and deep, the way he talks. So I think it's good that Cavill pushed for Geralt to speak more, to kind of show off his character more. And that, because that does bring some sense of, or that brings in what the original writer intended into the show.
more. I pushed really, really hard.
Does this mean he's cheery? I wouldn't say cheery. He's just Geralt of Rivia, but he's definitely coming across more of an intellectual. It's a hard life monster hunting. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, I mean, just because he talks a lot doesn't mean he's a happy-go-lucky guy. But he definitely has a lot of thoughts, and he is very smart. He's like he's a detective, you know. He knows things, so let him talk.
Hard for that. As well as later when he discussed some of his favourite scenes from the books being cut entirely from the season. Quote, it was such a shame, a lovely bit from Blood of Elves had been left out of season 2. He tried to do it justice, of course, by improvising part of that scene during the death of Roach, Geralt's horse. Henry doing things like this didn't seem to go down well in the writer's room. At the very beginning, they lovingly called Henry a walking Witcher encyclopedia. Remember, Lauren publicly said that he was Geralt, he was born for this role. So originally, this was good, to have an actor so incredibly engrossed in his role to strive for perfection. But now that the
I'm telling you, man, they should have just let Henry Cavill write everything too. Fire all the writers, let Henry Cavill do the writing. The guy knows what he's talking about.
writers wanted to veer away from that and tell their own stories, using the books as a vehicle for their own ideas, the Walking Encyclopedia was
let
now
me
vehicle
read
for their
that
own
real
ideas.
quick. Is it true that you see yourselves above the source material? Okay, and she responded, huh? Above the source material? Never.
The Walking Encyclopedia was now a problem. During the fan backlash, which lasted months and is probably still ongoing at this point.
See, he's not a problem, he's a gift. He's a gift to the people writing the show because they have to do less of their job because they have someone walking around who knows everything about the books. Utilize that. Utilize his knowledge on the lore instead of being stupid and diverting from the original plot points.
Writers from The Witcher went on the offensive. Leaks were being published about Henry Cavill, claiming that he's, quote, toxic, misogynistic, and a stereotypical gamer. The claims were that Henry and the now fired writer, who were both big fans of the games and books, were fighting to keep things true, and it was them versus the world. The world just so happened in this example to have been mostly female. They claimed that this weird alliance of two men were forcing changes on the regular and ignoring the female crew, which included writers and directors. This led to many complaints to human resources, and Henry was allegedly repeatedly warned. He ignored those warnings and continued his, quote, toxic demeanor, which led to Netflix firing him, but allowing him to state he was stepping away publicly.
Wait. So what was... I don't understand. What was... He's deeply addicted to video games to the point where it was like working with any other addict. He was distracted, he was late, he was obsessive. And a lot of people think that misogyny came from gamer world. Oh my god. Not this again. Ah, Jesus. Guys, not all gamers are misogynists. not all gamers are 600-pound losers who don't do anything but game. Oh my goodness. I thought we would be done with this kind of negative stereotyping. Oh my God. What else does it say here? Female writers and directors were suddenly completely ignored on set, unable to do their job. Every department head was complaining. He started making comments. It wasn't a sexual thing. He wasn't grabbing anyone or being lewd, but it was disrespectful and toxic all the same. But what did he do? The showrunner, let's start from the beginning here. So if you know anything about showrunning, the showrunner has to sign off on every minuscule detail down to the buttons on a costume. Female writers and directors were suddenly completely ignored on set, unable to do their job. So he was trying to overrule and get changes made last minute across the board without her knowledge. Yeah, he was probably trying to get changes made because whoever is making the stupid decisions is making stupid decisions. Geralt shouldn't show up in a suit and tie, and last minute he realized they're putting him in a suit and tie, so he's probably trying to get into a normal armor set. That's an exaggeration. But my point is he's probably trying to make changes that would help the show because he knows what he's talking about. And I highly doubt he's doing it only because she's a woman. In Season 2 and Season 3, something shifted. He became really impossible for women to work with, which is always a big problem. The showrunner is a woman. He would try to overrule her and get changes made last minute. Oh my God. Video game bro language is not how you talk to coworkers, and he wouldn't stop. Someone on the show compared it to watching Get Brainwashed by QAnon. Like his whole personality shifted and his disrespect escalated. Video game bro language is not how you talk to coworkers. What is video game bro language? Like, what does that mean? How do video game bros talk? Is there a way we talk? I didn't know about this. I really hate the statement where it's like his misogyny came from the gamer world. It's, oh man, it's so disappointing. Whoever wrote this is like definitely not a gamer, I'll say that much. He would rewrite scenes without alerting other actors in the scenes until it was time to shoot. He decided that he didn't want any romantic scenes at all, no kissing, no shirtless scenes, etc. He wanted complete control of the storylines, but really had no idea of limitations of TV structure, budget, etc. Okay, so here's my opinion on sex scenes, okay? If I'm watching a show or a movie and there starts to be a sex scene, that's okay. Just fade to black. Just fade it to black. Just pan the camera away. Let the audience that's watching the show know that something happened, but cut away to the morning after. That way you tell the audience that, okay, these two have something going on, but then you move on. I don't need to see the sex happening. That's ridiculous. There's other places I could go for that, right? There's no point in showing really rude, lewd, and crass like sex scenes. There's no point. Just show me the narrative structure and move on. Fade to black. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with him not wanting romantic scenes in the show. You get an hour an episode or whatever amount it is. Show me stuff that really matters. Spend those extra 2 minutes showing me things that are actually interesting.
The state he was stepping away publicly.
No shirtless scenes is also understandable because they probably told him to take off his shirt every episode. He probably got sick of it. Just because he's jacked doesn't mean that's all he wants to, show off in the show. He wanted complete control of the storylines. Yeah, because everyone surrounding him is probably an idiot, right? Not knowing anything about the storylines. He formed a weird alliance with one writer who was also a gamer, who eventually got fired after multiple HR complaints were made. Oh my God. So there was one other person who knew what he was talking about and supported Henry Cavill, but because both of them were gamers and actually knew how the game or the lore or the plot points were supposed to work, they probably got fired because they couldn't get with the program and do the incorrect thing in terms of lore. After the writer left, Henry did anything he could to hold up production and cause problems. Oh my God. I'm so disappointed. Eventually, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Eventually, top brass at Netflix was tired of him costing them money with delays in HR investigations. And the showrunner was asked to construct a potential exit for him. Netflix reached out to him personally, and he was given one final warning and violated that warning with an email he sent to the entire writing staff right after that meeting. That was it. I'm glad he left, man. He probably was so stressed out. Because, you know, when they stop filming, when the season releases, it's not necessarily going to be the showrunner who gets all the flack, right? For most of the audience, the face they see when they think of the Witcher show is going to be Henry Cavill. So he would probably get a lot of flack too. And him wanting to avoid that is completely understandable. Who did this guy say wrote this? Let me just back up a little bit.
Sick.
An actor nobody wants to work with anymore. Let's go back here.
Months, and he's probably still ongoing at this point. Writers from The Witcher went on the offensive. Leaks were being published about Henry Cavill, claiming that he's, quote, toxic, misogynistic, and a stereotypical gamer. The claims were that Henry and the now fired writer, who were both big fans of the games and books,
so these were writers that
were fighting to keep things true, and it was them versus the world. The world just so happened in this example to have been mostly female. They claimed that this weird alliance of two men were forcing changes on the regular and ignoring the female crew, which included writers and directors. This led to many complaints to human resources, and Henry was allegedly repeatedly warned. He ignored those warnings and continued his, quote, toxic demeanor, which led to Netflix firing him, but allowing him to state he was stepping away publicly. The words in the report are quite telling. They say, quote, his extreme obsession with the game was creating an inconvenience among the crew, which goes...
That's a superpower to have. As writers on the show, you guys have a superpower. You have somebody who is super obsessed with the game. Your job becomes easier as a writer if you have an actor who's super obsessed with the game. You have someone to tell you as soon as you start messing up in terms of writing. You have someone who's a live encyclopedia who will tell you the moment you veer too far off from the original plot points. You guys gave up a superpower. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
It goes in line with what we know about why he wanted to play Geralt in the first place, as well as the writer's public testimony stating the source material was being disrespected. Henry wanted to play Geralt as written in the books, and this is what he was told when he signed on originally. Unfortunately, now they were making him play somebody completely different in a story that didn't exist. That is not what he signed up for, and he seemed to be fighting that every single day, even at the cost of his own job. The fact that the showrunners and writers were female, I doubt has anything to do with anything.
Yeah, I feel like they're just kind of... Obviously, I don't know exactly what happened. I wasn't there behind the scenes. But I feel like they don't really have any other real argument aside from the fact that he was going against them in terms of how the story was being written. I doubt they have any other real argument. So they're kind of throwing that in as like, okay, this will get everyone to support us. I mean, they're wrong. No one's going to support them. But I feel like that's why they said what they said about him being a misogynist. God, it really pisses me off that they called gamers misogynists. Like, that's not a thing. My girlfriend's a gamer. She has like 160 hours on Stardew Valley. That doesn't mean she's a misogynist. You know, like it's just so stupid. Why even take that route?
Accusation that he's misogynistic just because they happen to be women seems incredibly convenient and relies on the idea He wouldn't have
Yeah.
acted in the same manner had they been men instead and writing the show in the same way.
Yeah, I think his issue is stupidity, not the sex that he's dealing with.
Point, The Witcher Season 3 will be the last we see of Henry Cavill in a role he seemed to have been born to play. After that, the show ends for me and for many.
You know why this sucks? Because now we're never going to have a good Witcher show. That's it. It's over. It was never like amazing to begin with, but at least it was passable because of him. And now we will never have it. That's what sucks.
Any other fans. While the new actor, Liam Hemsworth, will undoubtedly do his best to respectfully play Geralt, it should be clear to all that the show is...
Okay, as a Witcher fan, I'm over the moon. So he's a fan. Okay, I'm going to believe him. I'm over the moon about the opportunity to play Geralt of Rivia. Henry Cavill has been an incredible Geralt, and I'm honored that he's handing me the reins, allowing me to take up the White Wolf's blade for the next chapter of his adventure. Henry, I've been a fan of yours for years, and I was inspired by what you brought to this character. I have some big boots to fill, but I'm excited to be stepping into your world, into the Witcher world. I feel bad for this guy. I feel bad for him. Is he in any other like super big budget movie? I'm not sure. I haven't seen too many movies with him. He might be like a rom-com actor or something, and I don't watch too many rom-coms. So I'm not sure if I've even seen him in another movie. So I don't know what his acting is like. But regardless, even if he is a phenomenal actor, the boots he has to fill are way too big. It's like if you watched The Dark Knight, halfway through the movie, they switched Heath Ledger for someone else. How would you feel? You know? It doesn't matter how good the other person is as the Joker. They're not Heath Ledger. So I honestly just feel bad for him. He's been put in a position where he's gotten a really big role. One of the biggest Netflix shows, one of the best roles you could get on the show. It's just going to be difficult for him.
Now dead. With how Season 2 deviated, and how Season 3 will likely be even worse, considering Henry's alleged escalating behaviour due to said changes, displays to me that the actor change is not even the biggest problem the show faces.
Oh god, he looks completely different. I wonder what they're going to say is the reason, like, in the show lore-wise. Yeah, this is a giant mistake. Sean Michael Cole's right. All respect to Liam, I'm not feeling this. This is a mistake. Netflix should have chosen actual writers who had love for the original source.
Without Henry fighting tooth and nail to the point of being fired in order to keep it even remotely serviceable to original fans, The Witcher without him undoubtedly is going to turn into something nobody asked for.
Man.
Going down in history is yet another video game or book adaptation that could have been amazing and serviced the millions of existing fans, but instead was taken over by the ego of
Far
creating
Cry had a
something
movie?
new.
I didn't know
Rip
that.
The Witcher. It was fun while it lasted.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example.
You were the exact person I had in my head, man. You did a great job.
I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Oh, man. Guys, that sucks. I'm so disappointed. It's worse knowing that, like, this isn't only like a temporary thing, because let's say 2 or 3 years down the line they realize they made a mistake. I feel like it's still pretty much over. We're not going to get another Henry Cavill, and it's going to be hard to bring him back. So we probably will never get The Witcher we deserve as a show. And that's the worst part about all of this. They might have messed this up, but I feel like they messed it up for our future as well in terms of getting a Witcher TV show with Henry Cavill in it. And they said some really
Clash, which
stupid
lasted
things.
and is still on the regular.
Like
This
in
toxic demeanor.
this report right here, they said some really stupid things. He was deeply addicted to video games to the point where it was like working with any other addict. He was distracted, he was late, he was obsessive. I think there is, I don't know how much they're lying about this, and I feel like a big part of this report is just lies. But if he's late, that's not good. That's not like professional. If he's distracted, that's not good. That's not professional. Him being obsessive is good. Him being obsessive about the role is a good thing. Him being obsessed about the games is a good thing. Him being addicted to The Witcher 3 is arguably also a good thing. A lot of people think that, and that sentence, by the way, he was distracted, he was late, he was obsessive. I feel like all they wanted to say here was he was obsessive with the original lore. But if they said just that, they knew they would get hate for it. So they added in the other two things. I think that's what is happening here behind the scenes. They wanted to say he was obsessive with the game, but they can't do that because the fans would agree with the fact that he should be obsessive with the game. Since they can't say he was obsessive with the game, they said he was distracted, late, and obsessive. You see what I'm saying? Like, they're just adding in things to take away from what their issue was. Because what their issue is something that the audience wants him to do. They want him to be obsessed with the Witcher 3 world. Or the Witcher world, not Witcher 3 world. And a lot of people think that the misogyny came from gamer world. Who's a lot of people? Video game bro language is not how you talk to coworkers. Guys, what? What is video game bro language? What does that mean? Not all video game people, gamers, talk the same. Video games are a hobby. People who play video games have other hobbies too. They come from different backgrounds of life. Okay? There are gamers who are super nerdy like me. I'm a software engineer by trade, but there's also gamers who are athletes like not Snoop Dogg. There are gamers who are rappers like Snoop Dogg. There are gamers who are athletes. I played college soccer. I mean, there's different kinds of gamers. I don't understand why you think all gamers just talk the same. And he wouldn't stop. Someone on the show compared it to watching Get Brainwashed by QAnon. I don't think I can talk about this anymore. I'm getting so angry again and again just looking at this report that they wrote. They messed up. Netflix messed up. They get billions of dollars in their budget to make TV shows every year and movies every year. But somehow they managed to hire writers who want to deviate from the lore of the game. There have to be people out there who love gaming and also are writers. That cannot be that hard to find. You found an actor that does it. That was the hardest part, probably. Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm being stupid and disagree with me, and you think it's a good idea that they switched the actor, or do you think they messed up big time letting Henry Cavill go? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked the video, give me a like. If you disliked my ranting, go ahead and give me a dislike. That's all right as well. And I do a lot of reaction videos, usually surrounding the gaming space. So if you like reaction videos, I do some analytical videos and some reviews. Give me a sub. Check the channel out. Anyway, I'm gonna sign off before my head blows up. Take care, guys. Bye.